what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be bookish content. For today's video, we are going to go over the 6 books I read in the month of July. I completed 6 books but then started a 7th. So I will talk about that too. Let's just jump right into the video. So the first book I completed in the month of July is Grant of Immunity by Garrett Holmes. This is about a man who's a judge. His name is Daniel Hart, and he witnessed a rape and a murder 19 years before the present day. It has since remained a cold case, but in the present day he comes across Officer Jake Babbage, who was the perpetrator. They recognize each other, and now his life is changing as secrets are revealed. So this is an audiobook I listened to at work because it's a pretty easy read, listen, whatever, however you want to refer to it as. As you can tell from the synopsis, it's not a whodunit. It's kind of like an episode of Criminal Minds where you know the perpetrator right away. So the whole story is following the path to figure out when and how they're going to go to jail. But I actually really like that. I'm a huge Criminal Minds fan. Well, not anymore, but growing up I was. I really liked the idea, and I really like delving into the psychology of the perpetrator. You don't get that a lot here, but I did think knowing who he was right away actually made for a more tense story, because then the end result was like, what's that takedown gonna be? And there was actually a lot of anxiety in the last quarter of this book as things were unraveling. I will say from a technical perspective, it can get a little exposition heavy, especially when the book was delving into the law. This story was a way for the author to show off his knowledge, which good for you. And for me personally, some things went over my head because it kind of dragged a bit, but at the same time, I personally needed that information, so just so I could understand what was going on. And it also kind of just gives you insight on why so many well-meaning people get in trouble and stay in trouble while bad people get let off the hook, and it's always because of some like minor technicality. And also the way this book was written, because it was told in multiple point of views, so we did get to see Babbage's point of view, and he is written to be, and it's well written, so I mean this as a compliment. Like, he is such a fucking asshole. I would get viscerally angry whenever we were in his point of view, and I would almost like sigh in relief when the next chapter was announced and it wasn't his point of view. It was sickening being inside his head. I will say, unfortunately, the ending to this just felt a bit rushed. I just felt like Babbage's downfall happened too fast. Like, one chapter he's fine, the next he's not, is one of those stories. And I did feel like his consequence could be a bit harsher for everything he had done. In the end, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was a manga I completed, Anohana. So I read Anohana Volume 3 by Mari Okada. So this series is about a boy who's confronted by the ghost of one of his dead friends, and he is trying to learn what her wish is, but in order to do that he needs to team up with their former friends, because if they don't complete this wish then she cannot move on. This series as a whole is just an emotional roller coaster, especially this one because it is concluding the series. The ghost character is just such a selfless person. We all need a friend like her. I really loved the found family and how they all came together in the end, and I just really like the themes the story and explored and how it did it. It's a story of bringing friends together, so our main ghost is going to be kind of static throughout the whole thing because she's more of a catalyst, whereas like our main character obviously and all his friends are growing. They're learning to grow and be together again. They're finding each other. They're finding themselves. It's a story of grief, shared grief, and how the same incident can affect people differently, how some people want friends while other people push people away. It's a story of forgiving oneself, knowing it's okay to feel emotions, you see what I mean? And just a very emotional roller coaster. And I feel like it is one of those less is more type of stories because the author was able to do all this in just 3 volumes, so 13 chapters total. And I have to say, I wasn't expecting the wish to be what it was, but I did really like it in the end because it's selfless and it's very in character for our ghost. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. For my next book, I am continuing my Princess Diaries adventure because we're near the end of an era. I read book 11 out of 12, and that is Royal Wedding by Meg Cabot. In this book, Mia, she is 26 years old, so we're long after the original series. She's in the midst of a lot of royal commitments, which includes like charity work, just meeting the people she has to meet, and including being engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Michael. However, thanks to her father, scandals are abound. So first things first, Mia is grown up. I'm so used to her being a teenager. I was kind of taken aback with how old she is in this, but I really liked seeing her as an adult. I thought Meg Cabot still captured her really well. Like, She acted her age. It is how 26-year-olds, at least in my opinion, act, but she's still like goofy enough and has her little quirks, so I know that it's still the Mia we've grown to love and appreciate. She has the same friends, so we got to see Tina again. Unfortunately, we got to see Lily again, but Lily is a lot more bearable now that they've grown up. She's matured a lot. We got to hear from Lana, Perrin, Ling Su, even Shamika. The only gripe I have with this that feels a bit unrealistic is that she has no other friends. But there is a canon explanation for that. I'm sure it's just because Meg Cabot already invented so many people, we'd have too many new characters. But Mia just says because she's a princess, it's hard to make true friends. So all of her current friends are the people she met prior to finding out she's a princess. Michael is hilarious in this, which kind of shocking for me to say because if you've been here for a while, you know I've been feeling very wishy-washy about Michael. He's matured as well. Everyone has matured. So it's like, I can't hate this book because I'm not in the mind of an annoying teenager. But he's funny in this, and the engagement was actually really romantic. However, the first part of this book, I was really worried I wasn't gonna like this book as a whole because the first part is so boring. I was so bored. Like, there's a lot of exposition, and I understand because it's Meg Cabot trying to establish Mia's adult life because a lot happened in the past, 9 to 10 years. But for me personally, because Mia is now older and she has more responsibilities, like more royal responsibilities, personally, I felt a little too poor to care about the things she was complaining about. So, like, there are just some things where I was like, girl, there are people that are dying, but it picks up immensely when a scandal hits. This has so many scandals in it, and I am so for it. It is messy family drama, but I do love how enthusiastic Mia is. We do actually meet a new character in this, and I thought she was adorable, and I really did like how protective Mia was. And one of my favorite parts about this, especially in the last half, is Prince Philippe finally grows some fucking balls. I felt like he was such a wimp in the first 10 books, especially when it came to his mom and just other royal people, but he finally sticks up to them, and it's actually so funny I'm saying he finally grows some balls considering he doesn't really have any because of his testicular cancer or whatever it was, the whole reason Mia is, Princess of Genovia. But he's finally toughened up, and I respect that because I've been waiting for that. I will say there are two major gripes I have with this. One I mentioned before, and it's just how boring the first half was. The second is that there is a death of a character. I'm just gonna spoil it because Mia says it on like page 2, but Frank, her stepdad, is dead in this. He died like a year or two prior or something. It felt unnecessary because it felt like Meg Cabot needing an excuse to make a certain ship canon, which is kind of a spoiler. You could probably guess what I'm talking about when I say that, but like, I don't know. I don't think Frank needed to die. I did listen to this on audiobook. I've been listening to all of them on audiobook because they're, easy listens that I can listen to at work. So I do want to comment about it. It has nothing to do with how I feel about the book itself, just FYI if you want to listen to it. There is a new narrator in this. So the first 3 are narrated by Anne Hathaway, I'm assuming because, the movies. And then books 4 through 10 are narrated by Clea Lewis. This one is narrated by a woman whose name starts with an A. I don't remember what her name is. And I have to say, I think she's actually terrible. It took me some getting used to, and I understand the choice they made because, they wanted adult Mia to audibly sound different than teenage Mia, but I feel like given Clea Lewis's voices for the adults in the OG series, she could have done this just fine. I thought she was terrible. One, because this is a nitpick, she switched Tina and Lily's voices. Like, Clea Lewis had her way of doing Tina and Lily, and then this author just like switched it up. I'm like, that's not Tina. That's not how Tina talks. Like, and she spoke with this really like high-pitched voice for Lily, which felt off. Not only because I'm used to Clea Lewis, but also just because when it comes to Lily's personality, that's not what I would imagine. I would imagine that for Tina, given Tina's personality. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that kind of took me out a bit is that she cannot do a French accent. So Genovia, I think their official language is French. So Grandmar, if you listen to the audiobook, she has a French accent. Prince Philippe has a French accent. This woman, this narrator, she tried, but Grandmar and Prince Philippe sounded Russian, and then by the end of the book she just gave up and everyone had an American accent. So take that as you will. I am listening to the very last book, End of an Era, oh my goodness, but book 12. She does get slightly better, but then rather than having American accents, Prince Philippe and Grandmar just have British accents, so take that as you will. But that's basically it. One little tidbit is that a new character in this has my full name, so I jumped when I heard it, and I kept jumping just because I'm not used to hearing. I have a pretty rare name, at least in the US, so I'm not like, it makes sense that a French character has my French name, but in the US it's rare, so I don't see it in a lot of books, so it just kept making me jump. But overall, I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read is The Legacy of Yang Chen by F.C. Yee. This is from the Avatar: The Last Airbender universe. She is one of the avatars before Aang. If you're not familiar with the show, the avatar reincarnates. And I cannot give you a synopsis on this book specifically because it would rely on me spoiling the first book. In the first book, Yang Chen finds out that someone has this thing called unanimity and they are going to use it, become the world leader that's even more powerful than the Avatar, and Yang Chen needs to find out what that is. So I love the first book. I think I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I love this one just as much as book 1. Just like the first book, this book also feels like a game of chess. There's a character in here who did the others dirty in the first book, and in this one I actually really appreciate how hard they had to work in order to get in other people's good graces. I felt frustrated for them, yes, but that's because I'm in their point of view, and obviously, you know, I know why they made the choices they made, so I can understand it, but the others don't really get it. They're not in his point of view, they're not in his predicament, so they didn't have to make the choices he had to make, so I understand their frustration as well, and I can't blame them for not wanting to forgive him. And it also just feels realistic because I feel like in a lot of stories where a character betrays other people, a simple sorry and an explanation often gives them forgiveness pretty quickly. So it was just nice to see a character struggle in a way that I think is realistic to how it would play out in real life. I love the emotional twist in this book, and then also a lore aspect about Yang Chen. So it's said that she's a pretty great avatar. She brought peace to the land to the point the avatar next to her had nothing to do. But that was all with people, and because of that she neglected the spirit world. It makes you wonder why, especially if you understand the lore, because the air nomads are very spiritual people, especially I think they're the most spiritual out of all 4 nations. So there's an irony to an air nomad avatar being neglectful to the spirit world like that, and then we do get an explanation in this book, and part of me is like, girl, can you blame her? This girl had so much shit on her plate because if it wasn't one thing, it was another. It was always something for her. And the ending had me giggling and kicking my feet in the air because I thought it was so fucking cute. I do have one dislike about this book though, and it's the same gripe I had with the first one. She has the gift of just be able to talk to, well, not talk to them, but past avatars take over her body. So the lore of Avatar: The Last Airbender is that they could speak to their past lives, but it has to be in a certain order. Aang had to talk to the guy before him in order to talk to Kyoshi, and he has to talk to Kyoshi in order to talk to Kuruk, and he has to talk to Kuruk in order to talk to Yang Chen. So they have to go in chronological order, whereas Yang Chen, she was just bombarded no matter the order. So I wanted more names of avatars, but we didn't get that. Are they important to the plot? No, so I understand why they were left out, but I just think they would have been cool Easter eggs. However, that did not take away a lot from the story at all, so I gave this a pretty high rating. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read another manga, and that is Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 17 by Jige Akutami. This takes place in a world of cursed spirits, and the Jujutsu High School teaches Jujutsu sorcerers to fight off these spirits using their own cursed energy. So this series is pretty rocky for me. I do think I've read a lot better. I think the series can be a lot better, but I haven't given any of them too low of a rating yet. I gave the first volume 2.5 out of 5 stars, but that's it. That's as low as it goes. The others have some have a 4-star rating, but the others have a 3-star rating. That includes this one. It is Maki focused in the last half, which I thought was pretty cool. I do think Maki's like a cool character, and something I liked about it is that when I first started reading the series, I noticed she had similarities with a certain character, and in this volume that observation actually starts coming together, and I do think it's cool that said character haunts the narrative. The first half was boring though. It was just a ton of info dump, some that I still just can't compute because the magic system in this series and just the rules for certain things, it's so unnecessarily complicated that a lot of it just goes right over my head, and it's like when someone explains a card game to you and you kind of just sit there with elevator music in your head. I have to see it in action in order to actually understand said rules. So when it's just info dumpy like that, not a fan. And my biggest gripe, because I noticed, I came to that realization reading it in this volume, but my biggest gripe with this series overall, there is very little character growth in between fight scenes. They introduce characters, they as in the author Akutami, he introduces characters in a way that you think they're going to be huge, but then they die off pretty quickly. Like, it's a plot point is set up, you think we're going to actually like dive into these characters' traits and get to know them, get to expand on their personalities, see some growth, but then we just jump into a fight right away. And I have to say, because of that lack of character development, I don't care when characters die. Like, at this point of the series, 2 major characters have died, and everyone on Twitter was like, oh, so sad. And for me personally, I don't care. And I don't like that. I want to care about characters. I want to be emotional. I'm not getting the emotional impact others are getting with this. At this point, I'm just reading because the art looks cool when they fight, and I'm just curious to see how this is gonna end. Like, that's it. I don't really care about any of the characters. My favorites are the villains. Jito's my favorite. I like the others, but I can't say I care about them too much. I gave this volume 3 out of 5 stars. The last book I completed in July is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine, because I somehow went my whole childhood without having read this, and I have not seen the movie. This is about a girl named Ella who has been cursed by a fairy to be obedient, so she has to do whatever you tell her. I went into this thinking it was going to be like a cute original fairy tale, which I got that in the first half of the book. The last half is when I learned this was a Cinderella retelling, which makes her name make sense, but like, I didn't know that, so it did kind of take my rating down a notch, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It was cute. It was cute. The first half was just okay because it was very episodic in her adventures. Like, each new chapter was just a new thing that didn't really build off the last one. But I did think the story was more interesting once it became more of a streamlined story. And like, the characters in this, some of them, girl, I will fight Hattie myself. But as disappointed as I was that this became a fairy tale retelling, I still do like how it ended because I love when a girlie learns how to stick up for herself, and I actually really did like the main love interest in this because he encouraged her to do that, to stick up for herself and to make her own choices. He didn't, just because he was the prince, he didn't want to make those choices for her. He wanted her to grow as a person. And I did in the end like Ella as a character too, because I did find her to be funny. She was very witty, sarcastic, she always had a clap back. She was able to fight back in her own ways. Like, if you told her to go do something and she didn't want to do it, she obviously had to. But it's like the small ways she was able to get back at them. But I did just feel alright about this book overall, partially because how episodic the first half is, and then also, admittedly, it's because I think I am too old for this. So I did give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the book I started in July, but I have not finished, that is, because I took the dust cover off, but the dust jacket off, but it's Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. But this is about a knight named Don Quixote. He's obsessed with stories about knight errants and wants to become one himself. So him and his squire Sancho Panza are going on adventures to make him feel good about himself. I'm 170 pages into this so far out of 940. This is my big book of the year, so it's definitely gonna take me a while to read because it's episodic. I am learning I'm not a huge fan of episodic stories. It's hilarious at times, but there are some chapters that drag so badly, and the gimmicks do get old. He is constantly getting his ass beat, which makes sense given the type of person he is, but that gimmick is starting to get old. It's well written, it's an easy read, but it does put me to sleep. So it's like a good bedtime story, I guess. That's a summary of my thoughts so far. I will definitely give a better review whenever I finish this book. But that is it for this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti.